Hey guys, welcome to this breakdown on Teofimo Lopez versus Arnold Barboza Jr. We'll be taking a look mainly at Teofimo Lopez. We're studying round 7. Now, for a little bit of context, it was a very dominant performance. What he did in the early rounds was make sure to stay super consistent with his lead hand in order to discourage Barboza from using his own. And then from there, Barboza was only really looking for counters, which slowed down his activity to such a degree that Teofimo just managed to keep consistent and set up a lot more than Barboza could. So, okay, we're going to watch this round 7 and see how it goes. The first thing we're going to see is a little block look before he takes a reset with some defense. He's got a very consistent use of resets here. He uses his lead hand while circling off to the left. He actually squares up his base and then circles from it, which I like to call a long left circle because it helps you create a little bit more distance. Now, if we keep watching, he's using a low guard, jabbing to the body here. So he's got a very intentful and consistent use of his lead hand. The step in is very explosive, very intentful, okay? He continues to move around to his left. Here, coming from a low position, is going to pop the jab up against a squared up opponent. And then as soon as he sees Barboza retaliate, he just makes sure to correctly defend it with a parry and making himself as small as possible with his shoulders. He's doing this while circling off, and then he creates some space, resets a little bit off to his left. Now here he's chosen a static position, so he's going to try to make Barboza a little bit hesitant with these feint looks and then come in with his double jab. Again, very consistent use of lead hand so far, whilst making sure that he's defending Barboza's. And here we're going to see why I think it's important to use the gloves and air to measure your distance and set up these shots. As you can see, he just touches the front glove to occupy it just a little bit before pulling it out the way and landing this good jab. He's now taking the center position, using another couple of punches to the glove, just occupying Barboza, using a slip look here. And all of this lead hand work in order to stay active and set up a counter. So as you can see here, he does it to the air. He waits for Barboza's step in, parries it with his backhand before countering with the same hand, with this right hand over the top. Tries to duck under the counter, but just gets caught a little bit behind the back of the head. Now, obviously, if we pay attention to Teofimo's looks here, you can see his weight shifts are hugely important. He shifts his weight from his front foot to his back foot very consistently in a very traditional rhythm, but then sometimes will just put his weight on his front foot and double it over just to feint out a little bit more like this, and then it makes it super hard to read whether he's coming in with an attack or not. As you can see here, he goes back into it. He goes back foot, front foot, and then will usually attack off, putting his weight on his front foot. But when he doesn't, again, makes it very hard to read. Here he just uses a step-in jab to the edge just to set up again this good jab as he circles around. Very intentful lead hand work so far. Here he's going to use some wonderful feints with his upper body movement. You can see him sort of jerk the shoulder a little bit, get low with a slip look, and then touch the gloves just a little bit before sort of testing the waters with these feints and then setting up this explosive jab to the body here. Let's keep watching after this. So Barboza's going to circle back into the center. Teofimo's using some different block looks before again just testing the waters with his touch jab, sees the counter coming back, but is very defensive in shuffling back with blocks before breaking his base and resetting around. He walks himself back in and is going to look for a lead hand counter here. He sees the jab coming and insanely quickly will parry and touch jab at the same time. Once he's seen he's in range, will commit to his second jab once he's measured his distance. Just insanely quick counter. Here Barboza's going to try the entry. He's got a sort of low lead hand. And as soon as he feints it, Lopez is not going to worry about it too much and just hook it quite hard just to make sure he's telling Barboza that he's not going to fall for his feints. Here he looks for a little bit of defense in the shoulder roll position, leaning over to bait the jab and look for defense. As soon as he sees it, just pulls away very quickly, steps back, and then resets just a little bit off to his left. So now that he's got the timing a little bit with that defensive movement, he's now going to instead look for a counter off it. Again, same thing, lean over, bait out the jab, sees it coming, pulls away, and this time he throws a counter over the top. Really nice work. Transitions immediately into a reset, walks around to his right and changes the angle. Now here, all the lead hand work he's been setting up has set up something else, which is his 3-punch combinations. He gets into a low slip position, and here he's going to explosively jab to the body like we've seen him do before, which misses, but he doesn't really mind. And then instead of that discouraging him, he's going to change his level upwards, set up another jab, wonderful shot, and then land this wonderful 1-2 before immediately adjusting his left glove to just throw a short uppercut once he's seen he's in range for it. After that, just circles off and lets Barboza find him again in a new position. Just controlling the action really well in the ring. After moving, he's going to set his feet for a little level change slip in there, just to make Barboza hesitant. Barboza's going to see Teofimo in this static position. Teofimo trusts himself to defend the shots, so he's going to try to feint the jab before throwing the 2. Teofimo immediately just parries, blocks it on the shoulder, and comes back with this wonderful counter whilst he pulls away, which makes him avoid the jab. Just an insane game of inches here. Really high level stuff. He's going to walk around to his right and try to set up his left hook to the body. Now, the first way he's going to do that is touch out with his right glove whilst he's slipping inside to test the reactions. You see Barboza stepping back from it. He's now going to do it again. He's measured his range a little bit and seen the reaction. Barboza's framing to keep him at range. Teo a little bit too confidently comes in and then tries to land this left hook to the body, which I do think lands well, but it was very dangerous with the right hand being lined up. I wouldn't recommend it to most people trying it out unless you're prepared for the risk and doing it very, very intentfully. Wonderful. Let's keep on watching. So he parries and jabs, moves away from the retaliation combination into a reset, walks around to his right with his low guard here. Again, uses a couple of slip looks in the stationary position. Barboza is scared to commit here. And when he sees that nothing's available, doesn't mind and goes straight back to his lead hand with this circling jab here. Again, forces the angle to change for Barboza and make him find him somewhere else. A very simple way of controlling the action. Resumes his low guard position where he's just trying to bait in a very hesitant Barboza. He then feints his lead hand just a little bit more, really controlling the distance here before stepping away, resetting off to his left, misdirecting, walking across to his right, engaging in this low guard again, this time stepping forward with a feint before setting up this jab from a low position. And although some of these aren't landing, they're definitely doing a number on Barboza in terms of slowing down his activity. Here you see Barboza get a little bit more active with feints, so Teofimo's going to match him and is going to create some space, break his base, feint going to the left before resetting off to the right, walking over, and then all of this movement, paired with setting his feet at random times, has been trying to bait in a counter. Arnold Barboza is going to try to commit this time. You can see him testing the waters with a couple of feints. He jabs to the body, but Teofimo again has been looking for this the whole time and just parries and hooks over the top. All of that movement for one setup, but he really at this point has beat the confidence out of Barboza. He walks off to his left, misdirects and instead walks right, again making it hard for Barboza to catch up to him, especially with the respected distance that they have in between them. And this is just an insane exchange. You're going to see Barboza set his feet, have enough of it a little bit, and then decide to commit with a feint, and then about 5 shots. You're going to see Teofimo's defense here, where he goes parry, block on the shoulder, bend at the waist from the left hook, and then he steps back from the right hand, blocks this left hook to the body on the elbow, and then uses the same hand to catch and counter with this right hand. Insane work before resetting off to his left, transitioning immediately to defense. They go back into this game of Teofimo trying to lure him in with some slip looks and a low guard. And once he sees he's not committing, he doesn't mind. He's just going to use his lead hand and jab to the body with this harsh step in. He circles off a little bit, breaks his base. Once Barboza sees this, he decides it's a good time to punch. But Teofimo's way too alert. He sees the feint coming, sees the jab to the body, and looks for some defense before parrying and using it to move off into his reset. Again, using looks as he moves around to his left. He uses a little bit of lead hand here where he touches the front glove before stepping in with his second. But Barboza's prepared a little bit more for this one and then manages to parry and jab. Even so, Teofimo manages to step away from it very, very quickly. Okay, so here we're going to see Teofimo stalk forwards, engaging in a lead hand battle where he's trying to pull it down and jab over the top, before suddenly, after backing Barboza up quite a bit, is going to try to pull the lead hand out of the way to set up his right hand to the body. I think it lands and he manages to get under the counter from Barboza. However, I really do believe that he's doing his best work when he doesn't overcommit with his right hand and sets it up with 3 punch combinations instead. And actually I forgot, but this is a great example of what I mean. He's stalking him down again with level change feints, trying to pull his lead hand out of the way. He tries it again. This time there's no lead hand to pull down. He goes for the right hand to the body. Insanely quick step-ins. Though Barboza here has really the intention of looking for a counter, steps back from the right hand and catches Teofimo with his left hook in between. Really nice shot. And this is why I'm really not a fan of 2-punch combinations. The setup is way too quick. Here you see him walking him down, cutting off the ring while he uses his Philly shell look. Again, tapping his lead hand on top of the front glove of Barboza before flicking it. You can see he's a little bit less alert and still his reaction time is to pull away from this left hook counter insanely quickly. Wants to retaliate from this, so is going to walk Barboza down to his right, come forward in a straight line with his Philly shell look, and then feint out his right hand before jumping in with his gazelle left hook. Again, barely a setup and only really using his athleticism in order to land this punch, and he kind of gets caught with this right hand counter even though he tries to pivot off. Here, Barboza actually not doing such bad work. He's stepping back here, engaging in a lead hand battle with Teofimo as he steps back from this jab to the body and looking for a counter, manages to catch him with this 3. And the reason he's having so much success is that Teofimo's almost too intentful with his lead hand and will always step into it. So although it's powerful, he's closing the distance down for you to counter. And here's a perfect example of that. They both engage again. Teofimo steps in with his jab. He gets countered with this pull counter jab and then tries to fire off another one, but Barboza pulls away. So this is what your lead hand can do if you don't lose confidence in it. It doesn't matter if someone's necessarily faster than you. The more consistent and varied it is, you can win that battle. And it's probably the most important battle to win in the fight. As you can see here, he's just feinting and jabbing and catching Teofimo in this sort of lulled position. So now Teofimo is going to get a little bit more active with his looks. He's going to change his block looks into different guards. Try to be a little bit more consistent with his lead hand with this double jab to the body with some good step-ins. And is again going to try to come in with his right hand and is trying to set it up with only one feint or pull. So here you can see him feint it by stepping in and coming out again. So good in and out feint. And then he steps in with again this hook to the gloves, which misses. Tries for this really intentful right hand where he really turns his shoulder into it. But Barboza again can see the first step in as a setup way too cleanly and is already pretty out of range and just has to slide out and try to go for this counter. Now, credit to Teofimo, transitions immediately to defense and rolls under, manages to not get caught and creates a different angle. He walks around to his right, starting to get a little bit frustrated that he can't hit Barboza right now because Barboza is controlling the distance very well with this frame and touch jab. He's got a very good reach. So Teofimo tries a setup that he used earlier, touch the front glove with the right hand before slipping in and going for this left hook to the body. Again, Barboza steps out of range. He tries to finish off with this jab, but it doesn't land. Here there's a good exchange where Teo tries to pull down his front glove to feint the attack again. Barboza thinks he sees it coming, so counters, but Teofimo was just using it to look for a counter and tries for a left hook, but Barboza pulls away. That's really high level and a good culmination of what's happened this round. Again, using very aggressive looks as Barboza walks around, tries to come in with that right glove touch, this time trying to bait Barboza's counter out of him because he's seen this setup a couple times. And unfortunately for him, Barboza bites on it, shoots the right hand straight away while squaring up his base. Teofimo just catches it with a parry and block on the shoulder, and then uses the same hand right uppercut. Wonderful, wonderful shot, and that ends off the round. Amazing boxing here. Teofimo really is, for me, one of the most talented boxers in the world. And I hope this round has shown you, first off, a really good high-level round, but also how good he can be when he stays consistent with his activity and focused. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. In the meantime, happy training, guys. See you soon.